morning, y'all, y buenos dias. So for today's video, I wanted to talk about how to deal with people who don't agree with your parenting styles. This has been a highly requested video, and this is going to be very, very tangenty, to be honest. This is because it's so complex. There's so many nuances that go along with this. So grab yourself a cafecito, get yourself some water, get cozy. So before we get started, I just wanted to announce that I have started my Patreon, and I'm so excited for the community that we have over there. I have been posting all of our homeschool resources, all of our unit studies that I've created, printables. I have vlogs and other videos on there, and I will also have tons of unposted videos. So videos like Guali's birth vlog and my tattoo tour and other really fun videos like that. And so if y'all are interested in sponsoring this channel and being one of my patrons, please hit the link down below. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm so grateful for all of the support that I've gotten throughout all of the years, and it's just so exciting to finally have a space to have all of my internet cousins, all of my amigues right there. And so it's really fun to be able to have all of y'all in one place like that. So if y'all are interested in becoming a patron and supporting this channel, please hit the link down below because we're gonna be chatting. So if you're interested, then keep on watching. All right, so this is kind of a heavy topic for a lot of people. Also really depends on the community that you have around yourself. So for this, it can be extremely difficult for a lot of people to really defend their parenting style. So I'm going to speak about my own experience in our own particular parenting style. So we follow a gentle parenting, attachment parenting approach, and some of that might rub people the wrong way, especially people who come from a very standard westernized form of parenting where it's very individualistic or very bribe heavy or physical punishment, you know, all of these different things that a lot of us were raised with. And so when we talk about us wanting to parent our children in different ways, a lot of people feel targeted by that. And so when you are, you know, with a group of people and your child does something that, you know, they weren't supposed to do, and you go down and you talk to them and you're like, hey, you know, you were not supposed to do that. I'm not going to allow you to do that action. And so, you know, whatever, you resolve it in whatever way you see fit. And then someone might say, oh, well, you know, what they needed was a spanking. And so in that situation, you know, me personally, I'm like, well, you know, we don't hit our children. So, and a lot of people are just like, whoa, now this is awkward. And it's like, well, you started it. Like, I was handling the situation. And so a lot of people feel as though when you say, oh, well, I don't hit my children, that you're automatically, you know, trying to act like you're better than everybody else. That ego starts to like really pull in, right? And so I feel as though a lot of people are so strong to defend that form of parenting, that form of authoritarian lifestyle, because that's what they grew up with, right? A lot of us grew up with that kind of style. I grew up with that kind of style. My husband grew up with that kind of style. It's very typical for us to have grown up that way. And it's also very typical for a lot of our generation of people to be like, hey, maybe we, you know, there's a lot of research saying that we shouldn't do that. You know, we're trying to do things a little bit better, right? Like everybody's just trying to do a little bit better than what previous generations have done. At least that's what we hope, right? And so when we say like, oh, you know, but we don't do that, people get really defensive. People say like, you know, well, you know, I got my ass beat and I learned my lesson, and that's why I'm like this. And, you know, like I turned out fine. That's like a big thing that everybody always says, like, well, I turned out fine. And a lot of people aren't fine, right? They're not. They have a lot of undealt with trauma. They have a lot of undealt with issues. We all have various forms of trauma, various forms of issues that we haven't dealt with as adults. And so it's our job now as parents to try to learn from that, right? It's not about trying to be better than somebody else. It's about doing what's best for your child, doing what's best in order to create a better generation of people, right? And so people will get really defensive because in order for us to want to do better, in order for us to want to do things in a different way, we have to acknowledge what we came from. And so by us saying, oh, well, I don't do that, all they hear is, I don't do that, that's bad. Therefore, the way you were raised was bad. And so it's very challenging in multiple different ways to be able to accept that. And it's not an easy thing to do. And so people can get triggered by that, and they get really, really defensive and will blame this generation and so on and so forth. I'm sure y'all have heard countless times, like, this generation is soft, this generation's whatever. And for those of y'all who know me personally, y'all know I am not a passive parent. I am the furthest thing from a passive parent. And so that to me is just very, like, silly to have that connection. We have boundaries, and we stick to those boundaries, and they're very respectful boundaries, but there's certain, I'm not gonna allow my child to hit me. I'm not gonna allow my child to do a plethora of things. But that doesn't mean that I am going to be this dominating figure in my child's life to where they fear doing anything. That's not the point. The point is to teach them to do the right thing because they're the right thing, right? And so having that mindset, having that knowledge of, I'm just trying to do a little bit better, right? I'm just trying to not cause the same issues that were caused to me, whether they were intentional or not. A lot of our parents were literally just trying the best that they could with the knowledge that they have. And so we have to accept that as well. A lot of people didn't know what we now know, and that's okay. And we just have to do better. There's countless parents that I know who, were doing certain things with their older kids that they will no longer do because they learned, and that's okay. And I think that so much of our issues with any realm of our lifestyles really boil down to that ego of being like, no, but I'm right. And if we can really just, kind of move away from that and start thinking about it from a much wider perspective of us just trying to do better, us just trying to move into a different direction, a smoother direction, we are able to see things a little bit clearer. But in particular, when it comes to talking to people who don't agree with you, you have to, as the parent who is in the situation, you have to know that not everyone is going to agree with what you're doing and be okay with that. You cannot and will never please everyone. There are things that you do in your life that other people think are ridiculous and that they would never do it, and that is something that you have to be okay with. And so if you are someone who cloth diapers even as like whatever as that is, someone is going to be like, that's outrageous, how dare you, whatever. And so you have to be comfortable with the fact that not everyone is going to agree. And so that's step one, really, is realize that not everyone will agree with you and be okay with that. You cannot please everyone. You will never please everyone. So it doesn't matter whether you are bottle feeding your child, someone's going to shame you. If you're breastfeeding your child, someone's going to shame you. If you're doing both, someone's going to shame you. And so you really need to decide what is best for you and your family, what is best for your lifestyle, your values, and go with that, and be aware that not everyone is going to like it, and then be confident in that decision, right? So we need to make decisions based on, research, based on your traditions. If you are someone who's decolonizing, learning your history, all of these different things, and placing those in a way that works for you and your family. And so by being confident in that decision, it kind of extinguishes a little bit of the hype of the other person. And so when someone, for instance, if you are breastfeeding in public or whatever it may be, and someone's like, wow, like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm breastfeeding my child. To someone who is like, and is all flustered, that person sees that and they capitalize on that weakness, right? And so you have to be confident in what it is that the decisions that you're making, whether it's raising your child vegan, whether, whatever it may be, you have to be confident in that decision so that people don't see it as like, oh, they don't even know what they're doing. They're going to say that anyways, but you have to maintain that sense of confidence in yourself in order for you to continue these decisions that you are making. Because, like I mentioned, it doesn't matter what it is that you're doing, someone is going to think it's a bad idea, especially when it comes to parenting. Everyone else thinks that they know how to raise your child, right? And it doesn't matter what it's about. someone's gonna be like, well, actually you could do this. And obviously you need to take advice when you want to, right? When you feel like information is pertinent and information can really help you, then by all means, obviously take it. But there's a lot of times where people are giving advice literally just to make themselves feel better and to make you feel like shit. And it's so uncool, y'all, when people do that. And you just have to, again, be so confident and be like, well, you know, we just don't do things that way, and period. Like, that's it. Like, you don't have to give an explanation because they don't want an explanation. They don't care about the explanation. You just have to be confident in what you're doing and not pay any mind to those people. If those people are consistently, perpetually aggressive and always like undermining you, always whatever, then you have to take it to the next level and be like, hey, since every single time that we talk about this topic, you tend to get this way and I don't appreciate it. And I feel like this is not a topic that we need to be discussing ever. And so bring that to the table and be like, hey, if every time we talk about this, it's going to turn this way, I'm going to set a boundary right here and we're just not going to talk about it. And that's it, because you have every right to set up that boundary. If every time that we talk about, you know, breastfeeding my baby, you want to be aggressive and want to be whatever and want to belittle my decision in breastfeeding, then we're just not going to have this conversation. And you have to be confident about it, because that is your boundary. And that's a whole nother realm and a whole nother topic of conversation, is setting up those boundaries with people, setting up boundaries that you feel are healthy for you. Because there is no point in continuing to have a conversation with someone who has no intentions on seeing your side or learning anything about it or anything other than just trying to irritate you. There's tons of people that are like that. And you have to set that boundary for yourself and for your family of, well, this is what we're doing. And thanks, but no thanks on the advice. You have to be stern, because if it's something that you feel is important, then you have to defend it. You have to stand up for it. And so a common question is about veganism, about me raising my children vegan. And so we were really fortunate. We have been vegan a lot of years before having our children. And so everyone in our family already knew, right? They already knew that we were going to raise our kids vegan because we were ethical vegans from the beginning. And so everyone knew what that meant, right? And so we already were vegan, and then also had tons of conversations with our family members about, yeah, we're gonna raise our kids vegan. They will not be allowed to, you know, whatever, and like just kind of give them the lowdown. And of course you can get your, you know, comments or whatever. And it's like, okay, like that's cool that y'all are trying to be whatever, but like just know that this is a line that we have. This is something that we've decided to do, and this is what is going to happen. And so it's being clear about your boundaries with people is critical, and is something that we as a modern society forget to do because we feel as though everyone else has control over you as well. And so setting up those very healthy boundaries can not only help you in that, but in so many other aspects of life. It kind of merges into everything. And so by allowing yourself to have those boundaries, you're able to change everything, right? Because you're able to see that you and your values have worth. And it's not just something that you're spewing out like, hey, this is something, here's the line, like we're gonna stay right here, right? Like that helps you stay in the right mindset with everything, not just this in particular. But when it comes to parenting, everyone thinks that their opinion is the best and that what they say goes. Another really common thing that people say is like, oh, well, I raised a bunch of kids myself, I know what I'm doing. It's like, okay, I see that, I feel you, but the way that you raise your children is not how I want to raise mine. That's really hard for a lot of people to hear, but we have to have these conversations because we don't value anything more in the world than our children and their well-being and their mental state. And so these are conversations that need to be had, and they're going to be awkward. Like they're gonna be awkward, they're gonna be weird, but it has to happen in order for you to feel confident and to feel okay with that person, right? Especially when it comes to your children. And so these are things that can go into really intense territory, whether it comes to even not allowing certain people around your children, whether it's, you know, whatever the case may be. And at the end of the day, you're the parent. And so you have to decide what are lines, what are certain boundaries that you do and don't want for your children, right? And no one can decide that but you. So It's something that I think that we don't do often enough, and that sit down and really think about our values. Like, what are my values? What is it that I want to instill in my children? What is it that I want my children to be around? You know, what kind of environment do I want to create? And that's a really intense thing to think about, because you're like, whoa, that's so heavy. That's like, you know, my life, like whatever. But we have to do these things. We have to sit down and really start thinking about these things in order for us to be the best parents that we can be, in order for us to be the best people that we can be. And so we just need to feel confident in our decisions. We need to be informed about our decisions. We need to be vocal about our decisions and move forward in that way, because otherwise we will always be belittled. We will always be undermined by people who are not the parent of the child, right? We have to remember that. We have to give ourselves value in what it is that we're deciding to do. If not, people will always want to step all over you. People will always try to undermine you. But yeah, these super all over the place, and I apologize for that, but I can literally go on and on and on about stuff like this because it's all interconnected, right? That's like what I talk about all the time. All of these issues are so interconnected. But yeah, I will be surely doing some more of this. So that is it for today's video. As always, if y'all have any comments or questions, head over to my Instagram. Gracias for watching, and I'll talk to y'all later.